Imagine waking up in a world where every electric car, solar panel, and smartphone depends on copper controlled by a single nation. What happens when that nation can set the rules, dictate the prices, and decide who gets access? That world isn't a distant future. It's the reality we face today. The question is, can the rest of the world break free? Or has China already wired itself into the heart of our electrified future? A cornerstone of China's industrial strategy is to minimize costs at every point in the supply chain. By optimizing and making trade-offs at successive stages, China ensures that its manufacturing sector operates as one of the most efficient and cost-effective globally. This strategy poses significant challenges for other economies, including the United States, as they struggle to compete not only with individual Chinese companies, but also with China's integrated industrial system. Today we'll explore how this dynamic plays out in copper markets, an industry vital to electronics, renewable energy, construction, and infrastructure. With China's dominance in global copper supply chains, the implications for global economies and industries are profound. Copper is often called the lifeblood of modern industry. It's indispensable in electronics, electric vehicles, renewable energy systems, and construction. As nations push for energy transitions and electrification, the demand for copper is surging. A 2023 report by Wood Mackenzie projects a 75% increase in global copper demand over the next 25 years, enough to build 10,000 Eiffel Towers every year by 2050. China's motivation to dominate copper markets stems from its need to supply its factories. These facilities produce appliances, EVs, solar panels, and other electronics that power its economy. By controlling copper supply chains, China ensures it can meet domestic and export demands efficiently. This creates a significant challenge for other nations seeking to diversify their supply chains and reduce dependency on Chinese copper. In the US, policymakers have emphasized the importance of decoupling from Chinese supply chains. The Inflation Reduction Act, passed in 2022, includes incentives for domestic copper mining. However, the challenges extend far beyond mining. Copper's supply chain has 4 key stages: mining, extracting raw copper ore; smelting, refining ore into usable metal; fabrication, turning refined copper into components; manufacturing, producing finished goods containing copper. The US has primarily focused on mining, but building a fully integrated supply chain, including smelting, refining, and fabrication, requires hundreds of billions of dollars in investment. Additionally, US-produced copper is significantly more expensive than its Chinese counterpart. According to Bloomberg, Chinese firms produce copper at costs 20 to 30% lower than those in the US or Europe. China's dominance in copper markets is not accidental. Over the past 25 years, China's share of global copper demand has grown from under 20% to over 50%. This demand drove China to invest heavily in mining, smelting, and refining capacities worldwide. Consider this. Since 2000, 97% of new global smelting capacity has been built in China. The rest of the world has largely stagnated. Chinese smelters now account for over half of global refining output, according to the International Copper Study Group. China's strategy extends to securing raw materials from copper-rich regions. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, home to some of the world's highest-grade copper reserves, Chinese companies control 72% of copper mining projects. Similarly, China has developed strong trade relationships with South American nations like Chile, Peru, and Mexico. For example, data from the United Nations Comtrade database shows that South American copper exports to China have steadily increased over 2 decades, while the exports to the US have declined. In 2001, China's presence in these markets was negligible. By 2021, China had become the largest importer of copper from these regions, eclipsing traditional markets like the US and Europe. This dynamic is not just about trade, but about leverage. By controlling the flow of raw materials, China has positioned itself as an indispensable partner in global supply chains. Chinese smelters have achieved unmatched efficiency, driving down production costs while meeting global environmental standards. A 2023 study by CRU Group noted that Chinese copper producers operate at the lowest end of the global cost curve. This efficiency makes it nearly impossible for new entrants to compete on price. Even as global demand for copper rises, Chinese producers are squeezing profit margins for competitors. Refining fees earned by smelters outside China have plummeted. Bloomberg's chief research metals analyst forecasts that these fees will drop from $80 per ton in 2023 to less than $40 per ton by 2024, pushing many smelters in Europe and India toward insolvency. The shift to renewable energy and electric transportation further underscores copper's strategic importance. Wind turbines, solar panels, and electric vehicles require significantly more copper than traditional technologies. For instance, an electric vehicle contains 83 kilograms, or 183 pounds, of copper, compared to just 23 kilograms, or 50 pounds, in a conventional internal combustion engine vehicle, according to the Copper Alliance. China's focus on renewable energy aligns with its copper strategy. By securing supplies, it can produce electric vehicles and solar panels at scale, displacing fossil fuels and reducing reliance on imported oil. This has long-term implications for global energy markets and geopolitics, as it shifts the balance of power away from oil-rich nations. The U.S. has announced initiatives to build critical mineral supply chains, but progress has been slow. A 2022 Congressional Research Service report noted that the U.S. remains heavily dependent on imports for key minerals, including copper. While subsidies and incentives aim to attract investors, the economic math often doesn't work. For example, the U.S. has yet to develop large-scale smelting or refining facilities. Without these, domestic copper mining projects remain reliant on exporting ores to China for processing, perpetuating dependency. Additionally, building new facilities in North America faces environmental, regulatory, and financial hurdles. While China continues to dominate, other regions are making efforts to diversify copper supply chains. New smelting capacities are being built in India, Indonesia, and the DRC. Combined, these projects will add 1.6 million tons of annual capacity by 2025, marking the largest increase outside China in decades. However, these initiatives face significant challenges. For example, the smelter project in the DRC is owned by a Chinese company, reinforcing China's influence in the region. Meanwhile, new facilities in India and Indonesia must navigate high production costs and competitive pressures from Chinese producers. In the past, China's copper industry was criticized for its environmental impact. However, the country has invested heavily in modernizing its facilities. Today, Chinese smelters meet or exceed global environmental standards, according to a 2023 report by the International Energy Agency. This shift not only reduces emissions, but also gives Chinese producers a competitive edge in markets that prioritize sustainability. By contrast, many older facilities in Europe and the Americas struggle to meet these standards without costly upgrades. China's dominance in copper markets is part of a broader strategy to secure critical resources for its economic and technological ambitions. By controlling supply chains, China gains leverage in global markets, influencing prices and trade flows. For other nations, this creates a dilemma. Should they continue relying on Chinese copper or invest heavily in building independent supply chains? The answer is not straightforward. Dependence on China carries risks, but the financial and logistical barriers to diversification are immense. As the race for critical resources heats up, the question remains: can nations unite to challenge China's dominance? Or is the future of global trade destined to be written in copper and stamped "Made in China"? For nations seeking to reduce dependence on China, the road ahead requires bold policies, significant investments, and international cooperation. Achieving this is possible, but the stakes are high. With the world transitioning to renewable energy and electrification, copper will remain a linchpin of industrial and technological progress. Whether other nations can meet this challenge or China's dominance continues to shape the future remains to be seen. We're glad you're enjoying this video. Please like and subscribe. Check out another video that is now on your screen.